Davenport and then Gunner.
Thank you, Speaker. I too rise to speak to the third report of the Parliamentary Committee on Occupational Safety, Rehabilitation and Compensation, entitled Inquiry into Workplace Fatigue and Bullying in the South Australian Hospital and Health Services. I'll start by proffering my thanks. I won't detail it as other speakers have done, but first and foremost to those who gave evidence to the committee, both on a personal basis and a professional basis. My thanks. It was heartening to see the large number of professional people committed to doing what they could to elucidate or enlighten us as to better ways to address the two primary criteria of our inquiry, which was the measurement, management of both bullying and fatigue-related issues. Particularly troubling, and all the members were united in their concern about some of the stories we heard from people relaying their stories of bullying and/or fatigue-related issues as well. My thanks also to other committee members for your commitment and, notwithstanding our political and philosophical differences on many issues, the shared commitment to ensuring that our health system is run as best as is possible, and in particular that we address these two issues. And I do want to also thank the staff who were particularly helpful and enabled us to get through a considerable amount of work and helped us prepare a series of what I think are fairly cogent recommendations. By way of background, I was extraordinarily keen to see an inquiry into bullying in particular. As the member for Davenport, my electorate includes the Flinders Hospital and a large number of the people that work at Flinders Hospital. The evidence provided to me on the doorsteps and shopping centres in my electorate by a large number of people working in the health system were that they were systematically bullied. In this instance, regarding the failures of the transforming health system, but that's not the point. The point is that if it's possible to bully people successfully with regard to one issue, then by definition it's possible to bully them about anything in particular. I just want to briefly touch on what are, for me, some of the major takeouts. The member for Morphett has described. As an overview, we sought to, we've made 27 recommendations which are directed at improving a number of things: systems and processes, complaint management systems, the need for accountability, and similarly the need for enhanced accreditation. 27 recommendations. The size of the problem is enormous. The problem is enormous in our health system. You can measure any way you like. It's been a long-standing issue on both counts, both bullying and fatigue-related issues. I won't go into detail regarding the extent to which they are issues, but they are detailed in a variety of tables and graphs in the report. But suffice to say that the health system experiences and exhibits significant issues in both of those. What I do want to take the opportunity to do with the time available to me is to cover off what, for me at least, are the major or the pertinent recommendations. And I'd point the Parliament to recommendations 2, 3, 4 and 5, which primarily deal with the issues of accreditation. It's the committee's view that the health service should have a series of processes in place to enable accreditation of facilities to take account of the relative performance insofar as management of bullying and related issues is concerned, as well as having a working fatigue and related risk management system in place. So, recommendation 2 talks about accreditation at our hospitals, and likewise recommendations 3, 4 and 5, as I said, are related. Our view is that professional boards and colleges, etc., should be, as a matter of practice, addressing these issues as part of their accreditation facility. If we are collectively serious about stamping these out and addressing these in our system, then the accreditation of each of our health services and health facilities should cover those off. And I'll provide a quote, Mr Speaker. The member for Morford's touched on it, but it's astounding in my view that the committee wrote to the Australian Commission on Safety and Quality in Healthcare as well as the Australian Council on Healthcare Standards, and asked them to make, or invited them to make a submission, and they declined because, in their view, they could provide nothing to us because accreditation does not take into account either of these two very important issues. Now, the second recommendation I want to point to is recommendation number 12. Number 12 covers the use of time cards and/or hours reporting. To me, it is completely axiomatic that it be a requirement, a legal requirement, that time cards are not falsified. And if time cards are not falsified, then we cannot have a situation where people are working longer hours than is indicated. The evidence to the committee, repeated evidence, as well as the anecdotal evidence that I've seen and speaking to health employees, is that they are pressured. Subordinate staff are pressured to falsify their time cards and show less hours worked on those time cards than is actually the point. My very strong view is that we should legally mandate that it is a major offence to either submit a false time card or procure one. And I point to the fact that operators of heavy machinery and our pilots are mandated for very obvious reasons to have appropriate fatigue management processes in place in particular, and yet our health system, it seems at best to be optional, which is unconscionable in my view. Moving to recommendations 19 and 20, these relate to the HR systems and bullying and record keeping. The evidence we saw, the evidence we heard, indicated that, quite frankly, the record keeping for bullying in particular and/or HR-related issues is woeful at best. There are no proper systems, and each of the local health networks are effectively silos. They have their own processes, they have their own quote-unquote systems, but there's no consistent methodology across them for measuring, tracking and managing the issue. And without that consistency and without a fail-safe process to enable the management of the system all the way up to the top to know to know with certainty that all bullying accusations are recorded and managed properly, then it's not by definition possible to properly address them. So I would point people in the direction of that particular set of benchmarks. The primary, in my view, the primary suggestion emanating from the report and the overwhelming need, again in my view, and the number one issue is the fact that there is no consistent KPIs or benchmarking of our health facilities pardon me, to enable a drill down or assessment from the department down to the LHN, down to the hospital department and the sub-department. To the question of why is that important? Well, it's important because we heard time and again evidence from people of silos or pockets of bullying with no reporting up, no visibility and therefore no attempt being made, or no knowledge means no attempt made to address it. Without that, it's not going to be possible to isolate problem areas in hospital departments, hospitals, networks, etc., and address them. Every manager, in my personal view, every manager in the health department should be assessed and made accountable for the KPIs insofar as the wellness of, and in particular the susceptibility of staff to bullying. This is a relatively cheap, relatively easy process to implement. It is the number one issue in my view, and if there's a will to do so, then it should be done. So I cannot stress that, to me at least, is the number one problem, and it will also, if it's addressed properly, enable a considerable uplift in staff morale. In closing, Mr Speaker, I'll just recap our summary. If I can find the page 106 of the report, which I think is also pertinent. And that is the fact that these issues have been raised as part of other reviews and reports. None of this is news. The reality is We need to address these, and we need to address them quickly if we are serious about addressing these as serious issues. That being said, Mr Speaker,